Hey, before we get to today's great episode, wanted to let you know of a new exciting thing going on for the Lounge. For the first time since we started this podcast, the Lounge has entered into a partnership with a company that is aligned in how we think. Completely stop gambling. So Betttr is giving away 200 free subscriptions for life to the first 200 users from this podcast. Download Betttr, find the link in the show notes, or searching Betttr in your app store. So it's Betttr, BETTR, quit gambling. Search for that on the App Store or click into the link in the podcast show notes. So I'll see you on Betttr. And now to today's episode. Welcome into the Gambling Recovery Lounge. My name is Eric, and I'm a compulsive gambler in recovery.
And my name is Alyssa, and I'm also a compulsive gambler in recovery.
So before we talk about what we are going to do today, Alyssa, let's revisit real briefly how the first episode went. What did you think of it?
Oh, man. I thought it went well. Could it have been better? Yes. But could it have been worse? Yes.
Yeah. And for the record, like Alyssa, we have no idea what we're really doing, right?
We really don't.
And the cool thing is we got a lot of feedback from a lot of people, and everybody's like, you know what? It was really awesome. And nobody really knows what they're doing in their first podcast. So you guys killed it, right? But we're always our worst critics, right?
Yeah. I mean, maybe we could have done a little bit more and not put it together so quickly. But it was Problem Gambling Awareness Month. And I think that was important that we launch it in March.
Absolutely. We're going to dive in now to today's episode. One of the things we talked about last week that we are going to do in this podcast that's a little bit different than some of the other gambling recovery podcasts, we're also going to have a focus on different people coming onto our show that are also talking about how they've been affected by the problem gambler. Not just individuals who are the problem gamblers and their own stories like Alyssa and I. And tonight we are going to do an episode where my partner, Edgardo, who
the sanest person in the room,
who has been absolutely devastated by my years of addiction, he's going to be the subject of tonight's show. I'm going to sit back. Alyssa is going to take the reins and primarily do the interviewing. I may pop in with a question. We're going to kind of see how it flows, but Alyssa's going to really drive the train here on this one, and we're going to see how it all goes. So, this is for all the people out there that have been really, really hurt and affected by somebody's gambling problem. And Edgardo's story, I think, is going to resonate for a lot of those individuals, as well as all the compulsive gamblers, because we all know what we've done when we've harmed somebody else. But this also gives a great lens into somebody who's been deeply impacted and what their own journey is. So excited for all of you to be able to hear this story tonight. So with that, we're going to take a really quick break, and then Edgardo's going to jump in, and Alyssa and Edgardo are going to have a fantastic interview.
Yes,
we'll be right back into the Gambling Recovery Lounge.
Welcome back into the Gambling Recovery Lounge. My name is Alyssa, and I'm a compulsive gambler. I am here now with the legendary, if I may, Edgardo, who is Eric's partner, who he's been, talking a lot about. And we're going to talk to him about how Eric's gambling has affected him over the period of time that they were together and he was gambling, and then now that Eric is in recovery and how that is helping the relationship or hindering, who knows? But we're going to find out with these riveting questions coming to you now. Edgardo, are you ready for this?
I'm absolutely ready.
Now, this was really important to me that I get to sort of interview Edgardo because I did not want Eric to, kind of conflict of interest. I didn't want Eric to say anything or ask questions that were, more guided by him. So I thought it'd be better if I sort of steer this, but also because when I first met Edgardo in a meeting, what he said blew my mind because I didn't have the same experience that a lot of people have. I didn't have to come clean to a spouse because I was gambling with my spouse. So to hear a spouse say what Edgardo said in that meeting, I was like just taken aback. And ever since then, I just completely adore you. You are like one of my favorite people.
I adore you as well.
Thank you. And as I've always said, you are the sanest person in the room because you are always in a room of compulsive gamblers. And of course you would be the sanest, but you're also the sanest for many other reasons. Now, I just want to start off by asking you, how did you meet Eric? Was he a gambler when you met him, or did he become a gambler through that time that you guys were together? I know you guys have been together many, many, many years, so you've seen many Erics.
I have seen many Erics. So Eric and I met about 28 years ago. It was a blind date.
Ooh.
And he and I, dated for a few years. And during that time, he did not gamble.
Okay, so you met him pre-gambler.
I met him pre-gambling.
Wow.
I didn't, we went to Vegas like, anybody else. You go to Vegas, you do a weekend, but that was it. That was the extent of his gambling that I knew. I didn't know anything beyond that. As time went by, I saw that he went to, he would go to the racetracks with his brother, or he would, be on the phone. But I didn't really think much of it. I thought it was just for fun.
Right.
And, but that was the extent of it. I never in a million years thought that it was to the extent that it turned out to be.
Right, which must have been a shocker. So did you notice a gradual progression in Eric as he started to become more and more obsessed with the gambling?
So the natural progression really became more in how he withdrew. And he withdrew from me, he withdrew from everyone else. We would have, friends over, and he would go to the bathroom for 30 minutes, 40 minutes.
Oh,
or
the first thing that pops in my head is not gambling when you're in the bathroom for 30 or 40 minutes, but
you have a health problem.
Right. So,
and I asked that, and he would say, yeah, I have irritable bowel syndrome, and therefore I have to keep going to the bathroom all the time. And I'm like, oh, okay, and I bought it. And I thought it was, a reasonable excuse.
Well, yeah, why wouldn't you believe the person that you're with?
And so a lot of that became, I accepted those excuses of him, withdrawing from, these family situations or these gatherings. And that's kind of what happened over time.
Now, was there any one particular time that stands out in your mind that he completely, disappeared or wasn't present, that was so important to you that it just you were like, this is enough?
So part of me coming out to my family involved my family accepting him, specifically my parents. Because when we first got together and we first bought the house, my parents really wanted nothing to do with Eric. Oh. They didn't accept our relationship. And it took me a long time to get to the point where they finally accepted me and Eric.
Okay.
And for him to be able to come to these family functions.
Right. Oh,
and
yeah.
So now he's coming to these family functions, which took many years and a lot of work and a lot of effort, and he completely disappears. And he's in the bathroom, or he would walk outside. And it put me in very difficult situations because I'm now having to explain why he's in the bathroom for 30 minutes.
30 years.
30 minutes, for 30 minutes.
Right.
Or why he's, having to step out for an hour.
Right.
And I'm having to explain all this.
And after you did all of this sort of
this work
family,
over the
please
years.
accept this man that I love, and he's great, and I want you to see how great he is, just like I see how great he is, and then he's in the bathroom.
And then he's
with
disappearing.
His fake irritable bowel syndrome.
Right.
Yes. Interesting. So what would you say, after all this time and all these appearances made by Eric where he's absent and he's not really, having holidays with you and your family. He's there, but he's not really there. And was there a rock bottom where it was like, okay, this is enough, I know what you're doing? Or did he come and say, okay, this is what I've been doing and I want you to know? Or did you catch him?
So I didn't really catch him per se. So what happened was he initially borrowed money from me.
Okay.
And just said to me, I'm in a lot of debt. I haven't been able to catch up. And unfortunately, he also gave me some excuses that affected other people.
Oh.
And I accepted that. But yet I also blamed those other people for getting him into this debt.
Right.
Not knowing that he got into this debt on his own.
Oh, right. So I see what you're saying. So feels some sort of way toward these people.
Right.
Because you thought...
And I'm thinking, how dare these people...
Goodness.
How
dare these people
take this money from him and get him into this debt, and I'm getting angry at these other people
Oh my gosh.
because now I have to bail him out.
Interesting. Didn't think about that before. I mean, I don't think I've ever heard you say that part of it like that. Maybe I'm just getting it now, but wow, that's so crazy because you're right. That's so.
So I'm blaming these other people.
Yeah.
I'm getting angry, but at this point, I still don't know. I still don't know about the gambling. So
he's like a sneaky little snake.
So he's a sneaky little snake. Over time, he asked for money again. And the second time that he asked for money, it was for really large amounts. Oh. Six-figure amounts. And those were the big ones. And he tells me, I have all this debt. And I finally say to him, I don't understand where you're getting this debt. Where is this coming from? Did you buy these other people a Mercedes or what happened? Because I don't understand where you're getting this kind of debt from.
And that is the kind of question that comes from the sanest person in the room. Like, obviously. Yeah. And I wonder Eric, I know that you're not really a part of this interview at the moment, but did you think that you were actually getting away with these crazy lies?
It didn't even matter whether or not I thought I was getting away with it. The only thing I knew how to do was lie to cover my tracks.
Oh, so that was normal. Okay.
For me, it was just a normal way of thinking at that point was I got to lie to cover the last lie and then think ahead to the next lie.
Right. Okay. So you've got this web of lies.
So there's these webs of lies, and I'm bailing him out, thinking I'm doing the right thing because I don't know exactly what's going on yet.
Did you ever think, oh my God, what if someone's trying to break his knees? Someone's after him like that?
No, because I never thought that he would be in that kind of trouble.
Which, by the way, I don't think he ever was, but I don't want to give the wrong impression. But I just wondering, like, how far does your mind take you?
No, it never went to that extent. I knew there was some debt, but I always assumed that it was just regular credit card, bank debts, stuff like that.
Right.
Nothing beyond that. Yeah, it really wasn't until later that he asked me for another loan, and I said, okay, well, there's got to be something going on here. Well, what exactly is happening? And that's when he told me. He told me that he was gambling. It was due to that. I said, okay, well, let's fix this because that's who I am.
Right.
I was brought up to be a problem solver, a fixer.
You definitely are a problem solver. And you definitely can fix things. You built a fence.
And a wall. And a few other things.
You are the handiest. Also the handiest man in the room.
So yeah, to me that was my immediate knee-jerk reaction. It was fix the problem, let's get over this, and once I get you out of debt, you're going to stop. And that was it. And he did. He promised. He promised he was going to stop, and he promised he was going to not do it anymore. And then he got into it again.
Tisk, tisk, Eric.
And, yeah.
Didn't learn your lesson the first time.
Didn't learn his lesson.
And probably didn't even think about how lucky he was that he had somebody that was willing to get him out of debt like that.
Yeah.
That's true love. Because I don't know if I would. If Sebastian's like, "Can you get me out of?" I would probably be like, "No, you're on your own, buddy."
When you ask me about the rock bottom, for me, the rock bottom really came from. So just to put it into perspective, I now am at the point of. So he now tells me he's in gambling, or he has a gambling problem. I've bailed him out. He starts seeing a therapist. The pandemic hits. And shortly after that, my mother gets sick. And so my attention now gets diverted to my mom and taking care of her and taking care of her needs. And I'm, not paying as much attention to what Eric is doing now. And he's alone.
Right.
Because I'm now with my mom and he's alone for hours on end with nothing else to do.
With his fake IBS.
And then one day we were supposed to actually go to a party for some friends. And he gives me every possible excuse as to why we shouldn't go. And I'm thinking, okay, great. You don't want to go, you don't want to go. So I then review his accounts because by this time he's now given me access to his accounts. And
well, that was silly of him.
Well, no, because that was also part
that was part of the...
That was part of the condition
which,
of me loaning him the last money.
Yeah, and that's the least he could do.
He, I start going through the accounts and I find that he opened up another account and he's now in debt again. And when I confronted him, that was one of the hardest things I had to do because I already knew what the answer was going to be. Yeah. I just needed to know whether he was going to lie about it or not.
Oh, gosh. Yikes. So, the crush already came, but now you're waiting to see.
I need that validation.
A bigger crush.
Yeah.
And did he lie?
He didn't. He immediately stopped, and I knew... As soon as I asked the question, I knew by the look on his face, I already knew the answer. And that was one of the hardest things because at this point, pandemic's going on. My work is a little unstable. It's going through an affiliation. My mom is dying.
Right.
And he's doing this.
And so who's there for you? I would have felt like probably alone on an island.
I was alone on an island.
Yeah.
I was literally alone on an island because, again, the people that I was closest to was really my family. And I couldn't tell my family because, again, it took me a long time for them to accept me and to accept Eric.
Right.
And for me to now come back and have to say to them, he's hurt me in this way.
Ugh. You couldn't do it.
Was devastating
Yeah.
for me. And I couldn't do it. I couldn't face them to say, this is what he did to me. Because I knew that at the moment that I did that, they were going to turn on him.
Right.
And I couldn't have that either.
Oh, man. I mean, this is the kind of stuff that, this is what got me that night in that first meeting with you is you just don't think of you didn't do anything. You were not gambling. All you were doing was helping and supporting the man you love. And then all of a sudden, it's just you are hit with all this backlash of someone else's behavior. Mm-hmm. And that is just, I don't know. It just breaks my heart every time. And to see your face, I could see the hurt in your eye. I mean, and you really cared about Eric and, still do. Sorry.
Yes.
You really care about her. And
it comes and goes.
Yeah. I mean, it's got to be difficult to be the person that didn't cause all the damage, but has to deal with the repercussions of it.
That is the hardest part to deal with, is having to accept that there's something that's going on that you were completely unaware of, had no control over, and it just happened. And now I have to deal with it in my own way. Bystander.
And the thing is, as compulsive gamblers, we are very sneaky snakes. Mm-hmm. We are very manipulative. It's almost like as the partner, the spouse, or the the family member, the friend, you don't have a chance against us and our snaky like ways. But then you're feeling the venom of the bite, like the poison in your blood, because you're dealing with just the aftermath of the nonsense.
Yeah, but that's where Gam-Anon came in, and that's where it helped me to not only be able to deal with my own emotions, but it also helped me to deal with the situations. And the biggest thing that really helped me was that serenity prayer of being able to accept the things I can't change, that I don't have control over, but having that courage to change those things that I can. And I have since made a lot of changes in myself, in our relationship, and I've tried to at least take control of that.
And of what you're doing.
Of what I'm doing, because that's the only thing that I now have control over.
Well, I mean, you can't put the oxygen mask on someone else until you put it on yourself first. I was paying attention one time on the airplane, but that's true. I mean, you can't really be there for somebody else if you're not taking care of yourself first. And I mean, you've been through a lot with this man. And you're still with him, which is very impressive to me. Because, I mean, I don't know. You hear a lot of stories from the gamblers who say, like, I lost my family, I lost my spouse. So it's the fact that you were able to get through this and stay together. Now, do you feel like Eric is transforming as a person as he grows in his recovery?
Eric has definitely transformed a lot. He's very dedicated to his program. He definitely has changed in his personality, his attitude, his perception towards life, which I really do appreciate, and I admire that.
Yeah, I admire that.
But I will say this, that there is that sense of feeling left behind, because he puts a lot of priority in GA as well. Yeah. And sometimes I don't reap the benefits of it.
Right. I see what you're saying. So now you're starting to feel like you're very proud of his journey in recovery, but you don't want to be ignored now that he has this focus on his recovery.
Right, because his time. One of the things that I've told him is at the end of the day, it's just us. We don't have kids. We have, we have our dogs, yet. And it will stay that way. It's just us. And it's him and I, at the end of the day. And we have to be able to persevere through that. And if we can't do it together, then doing it alone doesn't do us any good.
Right. That's very true. Very poignant. You are the sanest man in the room. I mean, every minute gets clearer and clearer to me that you are the sanest man in the room. You have said so many interesting things during our little chat here. The one thing that really, though, stands out for me is definitely you saying, talking about how this transformation has happened with Eric. Are you ever afraid that the transformation or the person that Eric is becoming through his recovery is going to end up being somebody, not that growth ever needs to end, but like that he would transform into somebody that maybe you no longer have a connection with? Does that ever cross your mind?
It has crossed my mind, but at the same time, I understand the amount of love that we have for each other, and that's what keeps me going, and that's what keeps us going. Because that love that we have for each other, I think, is really the biggest bond that we have.
Yeah, and you can see that between you two. Like, when I see you guys together, it's obvious. You guys have been together for so long. I'm grateful that you have been there for him. I'm grateful to have you in my life. I would have never met you if I didn't meet Eric in recovery. So for me, it comes full circle. You are one of the most favorite people that I've ever met. No,
that is very true, and that the feelings are mutual. I mean, the amount of love and affection that I have for you and Sebastian are just, enormous. But I would have never met a lot of the people that have become a part of our lives if it wasn't for this program. Now, am I grateful that this happened? Absolutely not.
Yeah, very expensive.
But am I grateful that we now have these amazing people in our lives, such as you guys and, others that have contributed to our growth? That is something that I will always cherish.
Yes, so will I. And no matter what, through thick or thin, I would say that I hope that you are always a part of my life, because it is an honor to know you and to know Eric. And it's been a pleasure talking to you tonight. I love your story. I love the things that you have to say. I think you paint a really clear picture of how gambling addiction can affect a partner, a spouse, a family member. And for all of those compulsive gamblers out there that are listening, I mean, do we ever think about the other side? No, I would say no. I mean, I didn't even get a chance to experience it either, but hearing other people's stories about it and being in that combined meeting with you, the Gam-Anon GA meeting, it's a great meeting. And I do feel like there's a lot of stories like yours out there. It's a really important thing for the compulsive gambler to hear. Anyway.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for coming. It's been a pleasure talking to you, and I hope that we have you back again, because I'm sure there's going to be a lot of people reaching out and wanting to hear more about your journey and maybe have questions for you or whatever. If you have any questions or things that you'd like to say to our guest, Edgardo, please reach out. You can actually email him at Eric, ERIC, at thegamblingrecoverylounge.com, or Alyssa, ALYSSA, at thegamblingrecoverylounge.com, and we will relay that message on to him. So thank you again, and I love you.
Thank you. Love you too.
Okay, we're going to take a little break right now, and when we come back, Eric's going to come in and ask Edgardo some questions. They're going to have a little candid discussion about their own relationship. So this should be exciting. So we'll be back in just a second.
Welcome back into the Gambling Recovery Lounge. Hearing that interview sitting across from the table was riveting for me. And no matter how many times we've lived this experience now over the last many years, and especially now in the last few years of recovery, it never gets old for me to relive the pain. Thank you for answering all those questions so honestly. I have a few more that I want to ask. So first, when I started down the recovery journey, you had a choice to make whether you were going to take part or be a part. And I think a lot of people in our situation, the other half decides to go away from the situation and let the compulsive gambler deal with their own recovery. But you made a very specific choice to get engaged. Why did that happen?
Well, I'll be honest. Yeah, at the beginning, I really went through that phase of I didn't do anything wrong. So why do I need to go into any program? Why do I need to do anything? I'm not the one that went to the casinos. I'm not the one that was gambling. I'm not the one that lost all this money. So my initial instinct was, this is not my problem. And if, you recall, it took me, you went into GA in June, and I didn't start going into Gam-Anon until August. So during that time, I went through that phase of, this is not my problem. I have nothing to fix. But it wasn't until I started to go to a lot of the GA meetings with you, and as a guest, I heard a lot of what was going on and a lot of the pain and a lot of the stories. And also speaking to a few friends that were in other programs, Al-Anon, for example, and they were the ones that helped me to understand that in order for not only to help you, but to help myself, I had to be a part of that Gam-Anon program. But I still felt at the beginning that it wasn't my problem. And the very first meeting that I went to was the combined GA Gam-Anon meeting. Because for me, being someone that's very analytical and wants to hear all sides and all points, I wanted to hear what not only GA had to say, but what Gam-Anon people had to say as well. And to hear that in the same room is really what helped me to understand that I had some work that I needed to do. And it was then that I realized that the Gam-Anon program was for me, because one of the principles of it is the only requirement is being affected by someone else's gambling problem. And I was affected by someone else's gambling problem.
Thank you for that. So when I started my recovery journey, June 15th, 2021, I called into that first Zoom meeting that night. I know you remember it well. It was after the meeting we had with my therapist. What did you think that night? What was going through your mind?
I'll be honest, I didn't really have a lot of hope, because at this point you had already lied to me about wanting to stop. Well, you had lied to me previously about the gambling. Then you lied to me about stopping. Then you lied to the therapist about stopping. So I really didn't have a lot of hope that this was going to happen. And then in addition to all of that, I'm hearing these stories of people in GA being in recovery for years, months, years, and them relapsing. And so that was my fear for a very long time, was that relapse of, well, this is just for now. He's going to eventually go back. When is that going to happen? And it was a very terrifying time to have to live with that fear of, when is that shoe going to drop? When is that going to happen? And it wasn't until I got to that point where I realized that you were finally dedicated to your program, that you were dedicated to your recovery, that I finally was able to breathe. And I was finally able to realize that there was no going back.
I remember when I was on day 30 and I dialed into a Zoom meeting. That night, you lit a candle in a little cupcake that you made for me. And it was really emotional for me that I got 30 days because, as I always say to everybody who's a compulsive gambler, if you can go 24 hours and not make a bet, it is an absolute miracle if you're anything like I was. So that night, you did that very intentionally. What was happening for you that night?
There was a lot of things going on that night. One was pride that I felt of your accomplishment. For me, it was that understanding. We have a mutual friend from college, Karen, who had been in her recovery program for many years. And I'll be honest, I never really understood it. I never understood the pain that she went through and the work that she had to put into it. And when I saw the amount of work that you put into it, that you put into your recovery, I understood what recovery meant.
I've I've caused so much devastation to you. Of all the painful experiences along the way, is there one that stands out for you of, I can't believe he did this?
There's two. One, I lived in the moment, and that was, what I talked about earlier, which was that moment of, finding that debt that you had, having to confront you about it, because it was just a culmination of a lot of different things that were happening in my life. And it was just, I can't understand why he would do this on top of everything else that is already happening in my life. Mm-hmm. My job, the pandemic, my mom dying, and then this on top of all of that. That's what hurt. And that moment. The second one was, it was a story that you told later that really hurt me. And that was the day of my niece's funeral, that you excused yourself to go to the bathroom, and it was to go and gamble. My entire family was falling apart at that moment because this was something that my niece, a cancer that had devastated her life, her family. It was a painful moment that we were all experiencing, and you could care less about any of that because what was more important to you was to go and gamble. It didn't matter that we were all devastated, that we were all standing around at her funeral. She meant so much to me. And knowing that that meant nothing to you is what hurt the most.
One of the things I think you learn in Gam-Anon about people in gambling recovery on that point about is it about love or is it about illness? Based on what you just said, which of course is really real. It was real for you and it was real for me. Is there a different light that you would shed on how you have perspective on that awful experience that you just talked about?
It is definitely, I've realized that it is a matter of illness. And what I've heard in my meetings in Gam-Anon is to sort of look at it from the perspective of, or looking at it kind of like saying somebody is sick. You don't have control over it. If you get a stomach ache, or you have a pain, or you get an illness of some sort, you really don't have control over it. And I get that. But I've come to understand you don't have that. You have this illness that you don't have control over. And I get that now. Because to me, it was always, I always felt like you had a choice, because I felt like I always had a choice. When I went to Vegas, or when I passed by a casino, I always thought, oh, okay, you go, you have fun. But I never saw it as an addiction. I never saw it as an illness. Now I see that it is an illness that you just don't have control over. And those are, looking at it from that perspective now, I realize that you need to work on that illness. You need to take that quote-unquote medicine, which is GA. And without that, you will die, because it is something that you need. And it's something that we both need so that we can continue our life together.
One final question. What would you say to all the people out there who may be in your shoes? Maybe they're at day one and they have a loved one who is a compulsive gambler, and whether that person is in recovery or they're still out there gambling, and you as an individual are torn apart. You've now lived through this with me for years, obviously, but in recovery now, as I come up towards 3 years, you have a very different lived experience now. What can you say to help that person out there who's devastated and needs your words of wisdom?
So one of the things that I've learned over these last 2.5 years or so being in Gam-Anon is it's given me the opportunity to listen to different types of stories. And I will say that there is no one answer. There is no silver bullet that's going to just fix it all for any one person. Everybody has to assess their own situation, because if their relationship is worth saving and only they can determine that, then it's worth saving. But if they realize that that relationship is so toxic and so bad for them, don't stay in it. Walk away from it, because staying in is just going to hurt you even more. So you really have to assess what your own situation is. There is no one answer that fits everyone. That answer may not be the best for everyone, but as long as it's the best answer for you is what I would have to say.
Thank you, Edgardo. When Alyssa and I sought out to do this podcast, and we started talking about this almost a year ago, and it finally came to fruition a couple weeks ago when we released the first one. This was about a journey of not just the compulsive gambler and our pain, and getting through that and getting to the other side and trying to make a life for ourselves. It was also about telling the story of the Edgardos of the world. And I hope what everybody heard tonight helps somebody, whether you're the compulsive gambler, whether you're the loved one, because this is a disease that kills. And we're going to have some episodes on this show as we go forward that are going to be funny, lighthearted, and we're going to have some devastatingly difficult discussions as well. But all of it is in the context of pain and recovery. And you can't get to recovery without going through the pain. And the fact that we're here talking about it openly, honestly, and willingly, that gives us all a chance to get through the pain to the recovery. I hope everybody takes something from tonight's experience number 2. And experience number 3, we're going to revisit this story in a little bit of a different way. Alyssa's husband, Sebastian, is going to be the interviewee on the next episode. And that's also a really amazing, unique story. And I hope all of you come back and experience number 3 with Alyssa and Eric. Thank you all for listening. Much more to come on the Gambling Recovery Lounge. Until next time, thanks for listening.